So you were 21 working at
Greg's, yeah.
Yeah. You're now 31.
Yeah.
And you've made a 6-figure coaching business, which was the Maskülen Essence. And you did that in the space of 3 years of starting.
Yeah.
So talk me through, how you got from A to B.
From Greg's to here.
Yeah.
From Greg's to creating a 6-figure company was, that's been a journey. That feels like longer than 10 years. That feels like 25 years. I always say to people, I feel like I've lived 3 lifetimes.
Yeah.
Seriously, like the amount of, experimentation and the amount of, I'm going to go for this thing that I've done in my life is absolutely mental. Like, I'd say Greg's was the moment where I was just like, you know what, I just need to use earning money as, a little bit of a resource for my music career. Now, for those that don't know, obviously, I had a music career that spanned basically 8 years, performing on stages. At 19, I was, performing in front of like 600 people in my local park at a festival, which was like a massive game changer. Doing my own shows, putting on, performances for my own, cult, small fan base. It wasn't obviously massive, but we had a good cult following. I remember actually this once, I don't know if you know this, but I was, so imagine you're there, you're in your little hairnet, you're in there with your little black polo shirt and it says Greg's in the corner, you've got your hat on. And it took me about 4 months, I'd say, to properly get into the fact that accepting, look, I am at Greg's. I've got to accept it. So I remember this day in particular, I was laughing and joking with one of the lads. There's one lad called George there, and I was laughing and joking with him. And it's literally like a movie, yeah? So imagine you're laughing and joking, you're here, and you're like, yeah, man, crazy. Yeah, did you see that the other day? And then you're about to serve someone. And as soon as I turn and serve, this girl was with her mum, and she goes, wait, aren't you... And I just went bright red, like honestly, bright red. Like the uniform had a bit of red on it. I was like the same color red as that. And she was like, I was just listening to you in the car, look. And she showed me like recently played. She's like, what are you doing here? And I remember thinking, I don't fucking know. You tell me, what am I doing here? Because if I was that good, you'd be paying me and I'd be doing it full time.
Yeah.
And I had a couple of those instances, to be honest with you. I had different people come in and be like, what they do that, and they'd go, what are you? And you can almost see the mask or the allure. Obviously as musicians, right? Yeah. Yet there's this allure. People have this, they look at you in a certain way. There's like this mist, and that kind of just dropped. And I remember thinking, I had a situation as well where, my first song that I released got played on BBC Radio 1 Introducing. And the lady that worked there, shout out Hardeep, she was from Coventry originally. And she worked in the BBC studios in London. So my first song, I release it. She sends me a DM. She invites me down to BBC HQ in the middle of London, central London. I'm thinking, oh my God, if this is what my music career is going to be like, I am going to be as big as Drake. Like, this is going to be mental, right? So I remember going down there. I have the interview. I do the performance, in studio performance with her. And the next day I'm working at Greg's at like 12 p.m. I go in, and how they just nonchalantly went, so how was it? And I thought, how was it? My first song. I'm down at BBC. And I was like, yeah, it's good. They was like, was it a bit surreal? And I remember thinking, what's fucking surreal? Putting this flipping hairnet on, this cap, and coming back here to you lot, talking to me like I'm a normal person. I'm not normal, man. I'm different. It's that age where you just, you want to have the spotlight on you. I wanted that for some reason. I don't know why. I wanted the spotlight. I wanted the attention from a young age. I think probably there's a deeper psychological thing there, probably because it comes from childhood, and it comes from that moment where you feel, they're not putting the attention on me, whatever, caregivers, mum, dad, etc. So yeah, man, it's mad. It's a mad journey, Sim. Mad journey.
Yeah, most definitely. So I actually met you when you were Den. Hi Den.
Yeah.
When you were the artist.
Yeah.
And now, like, I've watched your journey, how it unfolded for you to become a coach in not even just the UK, but internationally.
Yeah.
So do you want to talk a bit about like what the biggest turning point was for you to transition from being a creative to being like a coach and that business mind?
It's a good question. I'd say you have to remember with music changed massively. As soon as I stepped into it, it changed completely. Music went online, and people were not paying directly to listen to your music. Of course, then the streaming came into it. So the monetary exchange and the actual value of getting, money from it and earning a living became very, very difficult. And when I first was a musician, I was selling CDs to friends and family. But then that stopped after a year because then Spotify came around and whatever. The reason I mention that is because money and music don't go hand in hand nowadays, unless you are at the very, very top, right? And I remember actually an ex-girlfriend of mine, we were in this apartment once, well, not once, we were living in this apartment. And at the time I was doing, different kind of work. I was doing, I was doing public speaking. I was going into schools, and I'm sure we'll go on to that in a second. But that was my next job after Greg's, was going into schools. Obviously I had the psychology degree behind me. As well, just quickly on that was something as well that I did feel a little bit like, damn, am I a bum? Like, I've got a psychology degree, I'm working at Greg's, I'm trying to be a musician. I felt like, am I doing this right? And I wasn't quite sure, but I knew that I just wanted to pursue this music career because I don't know why, there was just something about it that, I don't know, I think having that first dopamine hit, that reward of BBC are giving you the stamp of approval for your first song, that gives you a great spur. I'd say that if I didn't have that, maybe I would have got disheartened, maybe I would have stopped after 4 years. But anyway, I remember being in this apartment with my ex-girlfriend at the time, and I was getting these fantastic reviews from the schools and the teachers, emailing me after saying, thank you so much for coming in, you inspired the kids so much, how relatable you were. And what I used to do, Sim, to be honest with you, I used to just go in there and just be myself, be normal, use a little bit of slang. When the teachers weren't around, drop a little S-bomb, like just swear a little bit, just bring my own flavor, because of course the teachers feel unrelatable to the kids. Anyway, I'd get these emails back and they'd be like, thank you so much for coming in. Like, the kids would, like, they thought you were fantastic. Obviously at the time I was working through a company. And they'd forward it on to me. And I remember we used to have these conversations with my ex, and I used to say, man, it'd be so cool. Imagine if, like, I could do my own thing, going into the schools and speaking. That would be so cool, like doing it my own way. And she's like, well, you never know. Anyway, after a while, I had about a year of this, like, again, the same thing. I'd go into the schools, you'd get them emails. And it'd almost be, Sim, in a weird way, I'd almost, like, not roll my eyes, but I'd be like, almost as if to say, well, I don't know, I'm getting bigger than this company that I'm working for. And she said to me, and I never forget how I reacted when she said this. She said, what happens if music isn't it and it's this? It's public speaking, it's coaching. And I remember turning around to her and going, how dare you? This is my love, this is my passion, this is my identity, right? So much so that when I'd go out and about and people would see me, they'd say my stage name. They wouldn't say my name. They wouldn't say Deniz, they'd say the stage name.
Yeah, when we first met, I called you for a good, like, the first couple of years. And then you were like, Sim, you can call me Deniz.
You can call me Deniz. Yeah. You've only recently just changed my contact name, right?
I know, yeah, seriously.
Do you know what I'm saying? So it was a big part of my identity, big part. And I remember her saying that, and I remember thinking, you don't know how much I've struggled to get here, and you don't know, even the little mini successes that I've got. Those little mini success of the BBC play, the performing in festivals, the developing, a small fan base, that even the merchandise that I do, I'd ship out to different places. And she was like, no, it's all right. I was just saying. But one thing with me, is that when people say things, I might not like it straight away, but it does plant a seed. And if it's effective enough, it will plant a seed. And best believe, a week, 2 weeks after, I was going on walks and I was thinking, maybe she's right. And then the other part of me was like, no, she isn't right. Don't listen to her. And now you look back and you're like, she was right. She was right. So it's meant when you think about it, because I've created this identity and I was so stuck to it. I was like, and that was really hard to pull away and say, maybe it isn't music. And then to answer your question, the only way that it came around, there was a guy that I knew within my friend of a friend, asked to meet up for a coffee once, and he said, do you reckon you can help me? And I said, help you with what? And he said, help me with this area of my life. And I was like, okay, cool. And I was like, how come you're asking me? He just, I don't know, it's just something about you, I feel like you'll be able to help me overcome this. At the time, obviously I had the public speaking and the coaching background. I said, all right, let's try it. And he said, yeah, and I'll pay you for it. That's when my eyes lit up and I was like, wait, he's just paying me one off. I haven't even made that much in music in like 8 years. Mind you, it was a high ticket fee, right? So that was a game changer as well, I'd say.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And you know what's interesting? Did that guy approach you after you came to terms with the fact that, hold on, Aiden might not be my identity? Or was it like...
Well, he came to shows. He knew me. I actually went to school with this lad.
Yeah.
He knew me. He'd come to shows, whatever. But we were having conversations about different things away from music. He was into that self-development space as well. He was just getting into it. So he understood that, like the power of coaching. He understood how important that was. I think that's something as well that the average Joe in the UK doesn't really understand what coaching is. They think it's this like American ethos fad that's just like, you're trying to scam us. What do you mean you're just going to, you know, speak affirmations at us and we're just going to achieve our goals? It's actually like tangible, actionable things. He knew that. He understood that. So I think he was already warmed up to the idea of that. He'd been to America and different things. But no, it wasn't that I'd come to terms with it. That came later.
Did that?
Yeah. Came later.
Okay, so just to touch on the Masculine Essence,
Let's
which
talk
is
on it.
where this started.
Yeah.
So you built a six-figure brand in 3 years. What do you think you did differently from most coaches in that respect?
That's a good question. What did I do differently? I picked one area and I said, this is the area that I'm going to focus on. So I think a lot of coaches, life coaches, what they'll do is they'll say, look, I do a lot of different things. This is the areas that I cover. Even therapists, you know, as therapists as well, they'll cover different areas. But I just focused on one area and I said, this is what I'm going to do. This is what I'm going to focus on. This is what I'm going to help people on. So for example, and if people are listening to this, this is something that I urge you to definitely think about, is pick a specific demographic that you want to go for. So mine was, I knew I just wanted to help men. It was just that you know, my kind of relationship with masculinity and what it means to be a man, and growing up without a dad in the household and seeing 2 divorces before the age of 15, and my granddad playing a role in fathering me and my uncle, and then he dies, and then it's just this like, who am I? I really grappled and really tried to understand what it means to be a man. So for me, it was, I had to just focus on, I'm going to coach men because I know that I've got an endless amount of stories that will help them. Whether it be the young man, whether it be the guy that's in his 40s. But I just focused on that. I think the thing that separated me as well, Sim, was I tested to see if there was demand first.
Okay.
That was the main thing. So one of the first things that I did, right, came to London. So imagine I told you about that guy. I've got him as a client. I come down to London. He was in London at the time. I come down to London. I'm coaching him every weekend. This is going on for about a year. I've shut my mouth. I'm not saying anything about it on socials. I'm not talking about it. I'm not, at this point, I'm still a musician. I've still got the artist name Instagram. I'm still that guy. I'm still creating songs. I'm still going to the studio. I come down to London one day and I just have a light bulb moment and I think, okay, wait, hold on a minute. Let's see if we can actually just expand this a little bit. You're coaching this guy for a year. I felt like at that point I'd built enough experience and I'd say credibility. Some would say years not enough, but I'm coaching this guy every single weekend in London for a year, 2 hours, 3 hours sometimes, on all different areas of, you know, masculinity, confidence, how to talk to women, how to talk to other men, you know, these kind of things. And then I said, right, I'm going to put on a workshop. So I put on a workshop. It was by Euston. It's called Audition House. It was like £30 to rent the room, and it's just upstairs, and there's just this room with these foldable chairs. It was like, that's something like a therapy room, almost like in a movie, right? And I put it on, free workshop. I thought, yeah, I don't need to charge for it. And 6 men turned up. Out of them 6 men, one of them flew me to Copenhagen to coach him the next month. The other one was a long-term client for almost 2 years. The other one I coached for 6 months. Just out of those guys that pulled up. And a light bulb went off in my head and I thought, okay, I can just keep doing this. So I kept doing that. And then I'm sure we're probably going to get onto it, but I did the same in London, Dubai, New York, just being audacious with it and say, you know what, let's just flip into abundance mindset. What happens if there's no limits to this? What happens if I can just do this anywhere? And my brain just started going and I thought, yeah, let's just try it. Let's do it. And that's exactly what happened.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Right, so I'm going to touch on
Go for it.
the traveling in a second, but what would you say were the 3 main decisions that you made that were a credit to your success?
Pick one lane. So I would say I became much more successful. Well, everything started skyrocketing when I put the music to one side and said, take the boots off. That's it. I'm going to leave it now. I'll come back to it maybe in my 40s, whatever. I'll be like one of them guys, like old school R&B singer or something. I don't know. But that was one of them. Put that to the side. Focus on this one thing, this one area. And that's exactly what I did with the Maskülen Essence. Just focusing on that. What was the question again?
So what would be the 3 main decisions you made that would be a credit to your success? So putting Iden to one side, and then
pick one lane. Make sure there's a demand for it. Make sure there's a demand. I think a lot of people, let's move away from coaching for 1 second. A lot of people try and start businesses. They come up with the product or they come up with the idea and they don't even know if there's actually a demand for it in the marketplace. You should do it the other way around.
Yeah.
You should see if there's actually people want, if there's a gap in the market, if there's actually a need for this thing that you're trying to create, whether it's a product or a service. So, yeah, come back to me on the third one, or maybe by the end of it, I'll come up with the third one.
Okay. Wait, just on that, how would they test it?
So, the free workshops, that's an example, right? I can only really talk on what I've done, right? The free workshops. Put that on, see what the interest is like. See what happens. If nobody showed up to these free workshops that I was doing in the beginning, I would think, okay, there's something in the marketing or the word in here that needs to change. If I, A/B tested it and tried again, however many times, I'd be like, okay, cool, maybe there's something else that needs to be changed. And that's one thing that I will say, and this is where I'm noticing now, right? What gets you to being that successful entrepreneur that has that first successful business that first starts making money, and you can leave your job, your side hustle, you can leave that 9 to 5 and this becomes your full-time thing, isn't what actually gets you to the next level where you want to go, like once you're already successful. So for me now, I'm in a different place than I was then.
Yeah.
And I think one of the reasons for that is in the beginning, when you're an entrepreneur, you're rewarded for consistently changing your ideas and consistently being like, okay, cool, that doesn't work, next. That doesn't work, next. Whereas when you're at the level where you're established, you can't keep doing that. You can't say next. I can't just say, this one area of the Maskülen Essence doesn't work, next. I've got to say, okay, cool, that's one side of it. We know the business model works, but I just need to do maybe something a little bit different. Don't just need to scrap it completely. So, yeah.
Amazing. So what do you think is the biggest mistake you see entrepreneurs making now?
Biggest mistake? Yeah. Probably what I said a minute ago, creating a product, creating a service and there's no demand. Or doing all this pretty branding, pretty, colors on Canva and creating these beautiful designs and for your product or your service, and not actually realizing that, okay, cool, how are we going to sell this? When I was younger, I used to get it mixed up between like, what's a brand and what's a business? How much money has that made you in the last year? I had a conversation with a client actually last week, and let me actually just go into this. This will probably be quite useful for people. So this guy is a great guy. He's a good lad. He has got a massive passion for filmmaking. Loves it. Thinks it's like it's everything to him. It's all he's ever wanted to do. He wants to be like the Steven Spielberg of the UK. That's his goal, right? I said to him, okay, cool. How long you been doing this for? He said roughly about 3 years. I said, how much money has it made you? He said, actually, I'm in minus. I said, okay, cool. So how are you going to get this to work? And he's giving me, telling me stuff about, some of the ideas that he's got. And I said, okay, you're going to get it to a film festival. Okay, how much money is they going to get you? How much money are they going to give you once you're in the film festival? Oh, well, that depends on the festival and if there actually is a reward for it, financial reward. And I was like, okay, I remember sitting there thinking, okay, cool, I know what we need to do. This is quite clear. So what I've done with him is I've said, look, you've got videography skills. Clearly, you've been doing it for God knows how many years, right? I said, what happens if you actually just took that and turned it into, a business for businesses, local businesses, cafes, restaurants, and you just went up to them and said, look, I'm going to do your first one for free. If you like it, you can consistently hire me. This is how to do it. This is my packages. These are my rates. Go from there. So he's now doing that. He's got his first client. And I said to him, look, do you see the difference already? And his goal, this is another thing I think is important. The first conversation I have with clients around business is, what's your goal? Some of them might say, I want to make my first 2K a month. Some of them say, I just want to make an extra £500 a month. Some of them say, I just want to have a nice side hustle, or I just want it to completely change my life. I want it to make 100K a year. Well, that's different then. So we need to have a different conversation. But him in particular, his actual goal was, I just want to make £500 extra a month. I said, you'd be happy with that, yeah? He said, yeah. I said, all right, cool. Let's do this then. So I know you love your filmmaking. I know you love that. That's your passion project. That's not your business. Put that aside just for 2 months. Let's see what happens and focus on this. Go to local businesses, offer your services for free. Once they like it, once they see that you got, you're good enough, we can then, you can then start selling them. And then he's got his first client. So yeah, that's just a small example of, I think a lot of the time people are mistaken, like, first of all, their passion and then actually what's making money.
Yeah.
And I think especially in the UK, we've got this thing, Sim, about, we feel a bit dirty talking about money. But if we're actually as open as the Americans, or open as maybe some other cultures, we'd all make more money because we'd all just be much more open about it.
That's so very true.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I was also going to touch on, because obviously you were a creative.
Yeah.
And this client of yours, he's also a creative.
Yeah.
So I feel like you were probably the best person to ask in how you transition from the right hemispheric creative side to the left hemispheric logical side. Like, what's that transition? How does that work?
Yeah, I'll be honest. I have strengthened my logical side and my right side has fell off a little bit. That's weakened a little bit, which I think is fine. Nothing wrong with that. I wouldn't say it was a conscious decision. I just think when you are operating and actually running your business and there's a lot of moving parts and you're doing income and expenses and you're understanding, right, cool, we've got this money coming in. Your brain just goes into like, let's just be logical. Money's logical. There's no emotion in it. Like, it doesn't care how you feel. It doesn't care if you're upset today. It doesn't care if you just had a breakup. It doesn't care if you just had an argument with your mum. No one cares. I was saying that to a client the other day as well. He was telling me about all this emotional. I said, look, I'll be honest, no one cares. No one actually cares. The market doesn't care. Your customer doesn't care what you're going through. As soon as you cross that white line of entrepreneurship, it's dog eat dog. We don't care. No one cares. So your product better be good or your service better be good. So it wasn't a conscious decision, Sim. It was almost like survival, where it's like, look, I've got this business. I always said to people, when Maskülen Essence came around, I always said, I've got this baby. And I had a business coach at the time, right? And she said to me in our first session, why have you hired me? And I said, because I feel like I've finally hit the jackpot. I feel like I've got gold dust in my hands right now. And I need to look after this. This is my little baby. I need to look after this baby. She was like, okay, cool. This is what we're going to do. I'm going to get you to do all the boring stuff. I'm going to get you to, who's your ideal market? Who's your ideal demographic? She got me to do all this market research on all of the other businesses within my field. And I remember thinking, why am I doing all this research on all these like other coaches, whatever? And she said, it's important, you need to do it because you'll never do it again. But just do it now. Trust me and you'll thank yourself. And I'm so glad she allowed me to do that. Yeah. Shout out Katrin, man. She's, she was a great business coach. But it wasn't conscious, that decision of going from, as you say, the right, the left hemisphere to the right hemisphere. It wasn't conscious. It just happens. Yeah. Because you just got to.
Like survival mode, as you mentioned. Yeah. So you briefly mentioned about this client who completely kind of transformed their business after working with you.
Yeah.
What would you say their biggest mindset shift was in order for them to actually start seeing these results?
Yeah. Well, let's talk about that client. That client's Jake. Shout out to Jake. Jake was a freelancer, was in a freelance mindset. Achieved so many incredible things, worked with Nike, Adidas, PlayStation, Netflix, Lyrical Lemonade, you name it, Messi. Honestly, if I brought up the list right now, maybe I'll put it on the screen. It's unbelievable the amount of companies that this guy's worked with, and you can see on this channel, on this YouTube channel, obviously done another video where I just sat down with Jake and just said, look, let's talk about your achievements because you're not doing that. I don't know that I know, because I'm your coach, but other people don't know that you've worked with Messi. Other people don't know. One post is not enough. So one thing that I said to him is change your bio. Put all of the companies that you work with in your bio. So now he's got ESPN, PlayStation, Netflix, Andelect. He's just worked with a massive music artist. We're just waiting on clearance to actually be able to talk about that, because once we can talk about that, it's going to be, that's just going to do an absolute madness for his portfolio and the clients that are going to come to him now for that. But his problem, Sim, was, and I'm sure he won't mind me saying this, but he was operating in just like as and when. I said to him, when we had this first business coaching call, I said, you're Picasso, I'm trying to sell Picasso's art. So let's just keep this dynamic. I'm not going to come over to your field and tell you how to be creative, Jake, but you don't come over to my field and tell me how to run a business. I'm going to show you how we're going to do this. So I said the first couple calls, they're going to be a bit boring, not going to lie. We're going to sit down and I'm going to break down everything, and we're going to talk about everything that we can do to take this to the next level. So I'll give you one example, and when we were talking about this on the way here, on the way to the pod. But one example was, so I'm telling you now, look, he's got this fantastic portfolio of companies that he's worked with. Biggest problem with freelancers is it goes up and down. They have low periods. They have periods where they're super busy. They have periods where they're not so busy, right? And the issue that he was having at the time was he wasn't as busy as he wanted to be. Now, mind you, when he's getting bookings or when clients paying him, they're paying him a big lump sum of money. But some people think that's great, right? Let's say they pay you 20K for a mad project, or they pay you 10K for a mad project. Cool. But if you've had no, and I'm not saying this is Jake, but if you haven't had no, if you ain't got financial literacy, or you got no formal training, or what, not even training, but just nobody knows how to deal with that. Also, you don't know how long am I supposed to keep this away for? Do I keep 5K for 2 months and then put the rest in trading 212, or what happens if I need to reaccess it? So these were conversations that we had first couple calls, yeah. And then basically he was saying to me, look, I'm in a low period right now. I don't know when my next client's going to come. And I said, okay, cool, let's go through your emails. So first session, we break down everything. We go through all of the companies that he's worked with. And I said to him, what do you typically do, by the way, when you have these low periods? He said, I work on passion projects. I said, right, okay, and how much do the passion projects pay you? He said, nothing. I said, so how does that work then? He said, well, that's just something that I've always done. I said, well, that's the first thing that we need to change. When you have a low period, you're either making content that's going to bring clients in the door, you're either marketing yourself better, or you're going to your emails and going, messaging those people that you've previously worked with and said, look, I've got some availability now. And the wording's key as well. You don't say, look, I don't have any clients right now and I need some money. You say, look, I've got some availability just to let you know from this period to this period. And that's what he does. So he does that, and then clients start rolling in, and now the guy can't catch a break. He's always busy, which is beautiful. I think it's a good thing. And he's traveling now as well. He's just come back from Philippines with his girlfriend as well. He was there for like 4 or 5 weeks, gets to work remotely. So yeah, he's doing fantastic stuff, man. But it's a mindset shift, Sim. That's the biggest thing with it. He was in freelancer mindset. I said, stop looking at this like a freelance business. You are imagine you're like a studio. And eventually our goal with Jake, I'm sure he won't mind me saying this, but our goal with Jake is to turn him into a studio where he's got junior graphic designers or junior motion artists working below him, and they work in and they take in the jobs that are maybe, Jake's too high level for whatever reason, or he doesn't have the time, doesn't have the availability. And it becomes a studio. And that can be the biggest shift. We're even still working through that now. I think that's something that can take time to really change your mind to, I'm a freelancer, to I'm a big boy business.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
And that's like such a pivotal role that a business coach will have in, like, let's say a freelancer's life when you're trying to take your business to the next level. Is sometimes as a freelancer you can't see the bigger picture, and I've been in periods myself where I'm doing things but I can't actually see where all of this is leading. Like when you said before, you were in like Greg's, but then you were also Iden, and then you're doing, you're on BBC, but then you're also speaking in schools. There's so many different areas and aspects of your past experience where, and in the time you're probably thinking, where am I going from here? This is all feeling a bit sporadic. But then it all kind of merged together for it to, for you to be where you are right now, which is beautiful. So what would you say to people that are feeling a bit sporadic, like all over the place right now?
Yeah, it's a good one. I feel like a lot of people are feeling like this, especially in this day and age. Man, we say this a lot, right, in this generation. Lock in, you got to lock in, etc. But you actually got to learn to lock in. And when I say lock in, I actually mean like cut out the noise. I was thinking about this the other day, yeah. And from 2014 to 2022, I went on 2 holidays. And now I'm traveling all the time, right? I went on 2 holidays. I stopped watching football for like a year and a half. Wow. And I love football.
That's big for you.
That's big for me. Shout out Arsenal, man. Premier League champions, never forget it. And I just locked in. I cut off friends. Let's talk about that, because they're probably going to watch this as well, some of the haters. But I cut off friends because there's too much noise in my ear. Deniz, you need to get a real job. Deniz, this music thing's never going to pop off. You were right, lads. It didn't. But guess what? Now we're here, right? You know, in my ear at such a young age, I didn't need that. I already had family that were pressuring me saying, you got a psychology degree. You know, you got 2 earrings in. You're wearing these mad clothes. You got this mad dress. Like, just chill out. Just be normal. Just relax. I had a lot of pressure. I had a lot of noise. And I think over the last 15 years, cutting off the noise and blocking out the noise has been really useful. Cutting off fake friends, not listening to family members. I saw somebody on TikTok the other day and it was like, let your family down early so then you can just like cut your shackles off and just be free.
No way.
Yeah, that's what I did.
That's it.
That's what I did, man. But you just got to focus on one thing, and that's so hard. I mean, I was even saying that to you not that long ago, right? You just got to focus on one thing. And that's so hard for people because they're like, what happens if this thing doesn't work? And especially in the early stages of entrepreneurship, before it's even popped off, like I said earlier, you like the market rewards you for saying, okay, I'm not going to get so attached to this concept, this idea. It doesn't work, next, cool. But if you can see that there's something there and you can understand, let me just say this, you can understand how it can make money and you've made money from it before, just lock in and let's just double down. So what showed me, what was amazing evidence for me was I had one client for a year and I thought, right, he's consistently paying me. I'm seeing results with him. I'm enjoying doing this. I think I'm good at it. Let me start marketing and see what happened. The second client come in and I thought, okay, cool. This isn't luck now. Because there's always that thing as well where you think, is this just luck? Have I just got lucky here? Have I just lucked out? But there was 2 clients and I thought, this can't be luck. Then there was 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I thought, oh shit, there's a business here. There's a business. So yeah, I mean, it even got to the point, I don't know how much you know about this, but so basically it goes psychology degree, Greg's, trying to be a musician. COVID comes, public speaking online to schools. Imagine they put me on a big screen in front of like assemblies, basically promoting this company that I was working for. And then I start doing online coaching for a different company. And this is where coaching comes into my head. And this is where I'm like, oh, wait, so you can get paid for this. And this is actually a thing. And I remember they would basically be, the goal was for a lot of these kids that I got put with, they were disengaged from school for whatever reason, from depression, autism, anxiety, ADHD, whatever. And they say to you when you first join, what's your ideal type of demographic to work with? And I said 16-year-old fatherless kids, because I can relate to them the most. And you know that if all else fails with your coaching, at least you can just draw upon your own personal experience. That's what I did a lot of the time. So I started doing that, Sim. And obviously COVID ends and I'm doing that for about 2.5 years. And I'm going around to the kids' houses. One of them was called Jacob. Shout out to Jacob, man. Basically, this kid, he wouldn't leave his room. He wouldn't leave his room. He was from near Wolverhampton. I used to travel there every 3 days a week. And I'd pull up there, knock on the door, I'd sit around. His mum would make me a cup of tea. And for the first 3 sessions, it was like, yeah, sorry, he's not going to come out of his room. And I was like, I'd get paid for it. But it's where I learn about coaching. So I used to have to message the boss saying, I'm here, share live location. Cool. I have to give a report at the end of the session. Big, long report. That's kind of similar to what I do with the Maskülen Essence, right? So cool, first 3 sessions is like that. Then the next week comes the second week and I said, right, let's just think. The kid's 16. He's in his room playing Fortnite. I'm not really a video game guy, so I can't relate to that. I said to them, I'm telling him that I'm downstairs and I got a football and we're going to play football. Comes down. I'm like, okay, got him. Cool. So we go to the local park. Mind you, I'm only working with this kid now for 3 months. I don't know this at the time, but it was only 3 months, right? So it's supposed to be 3 days a week. They start adding more days. And then 4 days. It gets to the point it's 5 days. we're pulling up, we're going to the football park, we're just kicking a ball, talking. Now, obviously, as you're playing, the dopamine's high, you've got that, you know, the blood's rushing, whatever, you're in a good mood. You know, we're messing around and we're talking. And I'm asking him about his aspirations, asking him about what he wants to do with his life. And his guards drop them. And you learn about him, and you learn about his stepdad's in the house. He actually likes his stepdad, but he doesn't get along with his dad. And I thought, oh, okay, cool. He's got a little sister and he has to feel like the older brother. And I was like, damn, this is relatable, man. Shout out to my little sis. Like that's something that's relatable to me. And I thought, this is exactly why the demographic is important. Even when you come into the business, like pick a demographic. I always say pick a demographic you can relate to, because that's ideal, right? Anyway, we're doing this and back and forward. I've got him now with the football. So I know that if all else fails, we just go back to how we can play football. The third week comes, and I thought in one of those sessions during the week, I'm going to take him somewhere. We'll go to like a cafe. I took him to a library. That was a shit show. He's like, I hate books. I hate reading. I was like, all right, won't do this again. Noted. Yeah. Mind you, I'm writing down all the reports, whatever. So I take him one day for, we go to a cafe, and his body language is all off. He's like, I thought we were going to play football today. I was like, bro, look. And that's another thing as well. I'd call them bro. I'd call them, you know, I'd treat them almost like my friends.
Yeah.
Mind you, he was 17 at the time. I was probably like 27. A 10 years age gap. I said, look, let's talk about the future, man. I know you've told me about different things with football and stuff like that. What do you want to do? He said, really? He said, and watch this, we never spoke about this. He goes, I want to go to college and study music. Now, mind you, he didn't know. They don't know at the time.
Right.
I'm trying to be a musician. I've been doing this for 7 years. All of these achievements, right? They don't know that. And I said, Jacob, let me actually tell you something then. This is actually quite interesting. I was a musician. Well, at the time, I'm a musician. Like, I make music. No way. He's like, really? I was like, yeah. I was like, how about we go to an open day at one of the colleges? Nah, I'm not doing that. Storms out. Doesn't want to have he's one of those kids, he didn't want to be told what to do, right? Anyway, Sim, I'd start doubling down on football. I think, God, that's, again, this is why I'm learning coaching. I'm learning, well, why am I not comfortable with confrontation with this kid that I'm getting paid for? Why? Is it affecting my own ego? Is that gonna make me feel like I'm a shit person or a shit coach? What's that gonna do? Anyway, weeks go by. We have a couple of discussions. I have a discussion again. He goes, okay, let's go. We're going to go to it. So it's in 2 weeks. So we're building up to that. So we're having discussions, playing football, whatever. And it's kind of this like indirect coaching style. Anyway, we pull up to the open day and he's buzzing. He's happy. He's going around. He's talking to people. We get food day. He's like, man, you get food and drink at college. Yeah, you can buy this. He's gassed. Anyway, we go there and he comes back to his mum. It's another thing that I didn't mention. Every after the session, I'd take him back to his mum and she'd ask, how was he? And he'd go straight up to his room. Sometimes he'd sit there, they'd ask questions. And, you know, sometimes she'd cry to me and the stepdad would be there and he's like, we don't know what to do. We're relying on you. I mean, these times I'm like, I was 27, but I felt like I was 21.
Yeah, a lot of pressure.
I'm like, damn.
Yeah.
You know? Anyway, we end up going to the college day or whatever. So he inquires. They hear back. And I get a text one day from the company, he's got accepted. I'm like, oh my God, are you joking? They're like, yeah. And they're like, but, the company says, but this is going to be your last session with him tomorrow. God strike me down if I'm lying. When I pull up to that session, I'm a bit nervy because I think, damn, I'm never going to see this kid again. And I feel like we've built so much good rapport over the last 3 months. And we shook hands and he was like, I'm going to miss you, man. And I was like, damn. And as we're saying bye, I swear to God, strike me down if I'm lying. We say bye, we shake hands. I said, all the best, bro. I got a little tear in my eye. And I thought that. And when they messaged me, the company messaged me like a couple of weeks after. Yeah, then he's gone to the college. Thank you so much for the work that you did. And I'm like, is that it? They're like, that's it. I was like, well, there's no I don't get to find out. No, that's it. And I remember thinking, that's shit. I don't want that. So that probably sparked something in my head, Sim, as well, that when it come to creating my own coaching company, I wanted to have something where there was an aftercare. And that's where even the clients that I've coached and they've got to a good level, they're like still within my network. They're like friends.
Yeah.
I don't want it just to be like, I've changed your life. Don't get me wrong. There's some people, I remember this one guy from University of Oxford, proper like intelligent guy. He was a lecturer there, helped him, coached him. He was like, cool. basically don't want to talk to you ever again. I was like, I love, mate, no worries. But that planted something in my head where I thought, I want there to be this aftercare. I want there to be this nurturing relationship. I've changed your life. It's cool. Like, you know, if you want to stay around, you can stay around. But I didn't like, it was almost felt transactional with Jacob is what I was saying. So yeah, that was a long story, bro. But you got it out of me.
That's good though. Cause like, it's amazing how you knew how to connect with him as well. And like, that probably strikes into how you connect with your current clients as a coach. Because the one thing about being a coach is, and I put this in your review. Oh yeah. I put this in your review. Like, it's like you said, it's that transactional thing between coaches. And you hear everyone's a qualified life coach. She says, I'm a qualified life coach. Don't know what I'm going to do.
I'm not.
Do you know what I mean? But you did it based off experience. Like, you didn't just get the qualification. You did what came natural to you. And it's that like relationship building that you have with people, like that characteristic in yourself that I think makes you so well suited to the role. Like, when I think back to when we met,
tell the
like,
story.
it's so crazy. So we met, like, I don't know what year this
2019.
2019, when you were still Iden. You're an artist. We're on a train. I'm going to Cosley or somewhere. I never take this train, by the way. It was just going for like a birthday. And I always sit by, like, back in the old trains, you know, when they have the seats outside the first class, because it's quieter. Anyway, see this guy walking past, this happy-go-lucky, you know, chirpy, got a pip in his step.
He's put 5 pence in this lad.
I then, honestly, my initial thought was, oh, he's going to come sit here. Like, I'm going to have to talk to him. But you know what? Like,
that's so funny.
We spoke and we had a phenomenal conversation, and we've been friends like every day since.
It's mad, isn't it?
It's crazy.
2019, bro.
Yeah.
What's that, like 6 years?
That's what I mean, 6 years. And I feel like, you know, just you, because you're such a positive person, and I feel like you've always kind of tried to find the opportunities and find, like, basically bringing your ideas into fruition. Like, okay, how are we going to do this? How are we going to, because at the time, like, you were looking for dancers for a music video. I'm like, I dance.
Yep.
And that's kind of how, like, the friendship started. So yeah, it's amazing that quality in you has never changed. And it's like, you've always kept it consistent throughout everything, every transition that I've seen you move through.
Yeah.
That's the one thing that you kind of kept. And with you having that characteristic, you now have clients in Dubai, New York, now New Zealand.
Yeah.
That's halfway across the world.
Yeah. Literal other side of the world.
How did you do that?
Don't know. Nah.